Death chased them, but in the end it caught up with the Russians. The story of the Vila M strike. For 3.5 years, the war between Russia and Ukraine has been raging. It's completely reshaped the understanding of what a modern high-intensity military conflict means. It's also highlighted the main weapon of such a war: drones. Small, inexpensive FPV strike drones like steel wasps carry death straight into trenches and destroy vehicles that are many times more expensive and complex. Heavy kamikaze drones such as Ukraine's UJ-22 Airborne or Russia's Geran and Lancet are capable of taking out a stronghold or collapsing a residential building with a single hit. Reconnaissance drones hover in the sky for days, monitoring every move of columns and fortifications. Sometimes it seems as though the war is only fought by drones, with all other weapons left somewhere in the background. But that's not the case. The war between Russia and Ukraine has once again confirmed a basic truth. There's no such thing as an absolute weapon. No wonder weapon that guarantees victory. Victory comes only when you can employ a wide range of weapons together as a system. Today, we'll tell you about one episode that proves this point: a dramatic operation in which Ukrainian forces struck a Russian ammunition depot near the settlement of Karlivka in Donbas. This is the story of how death was chasing the Ukrainians step by step, but could not catch them. And because of that, they survived. July 2nd, 10:27 p.m. local time, Donbas, night. The Vila M launcher slowly rolls into position. Its heavy 8x8 chassis feels every bump beneath the wheels. The vehicle halts precisely in the grid square that Reconnaissance had chosen in advance. The crew is silent. There's no need for words. Behind them are 12 launch tubes. Each tube holds a rocket weighing almost 1,800 pounds, about 800 kilograms, with a warhead of 380 pounds, about 170 kilograms, able to pierce concrete, shatter steel structures, or tear human bodies to pieces. The operation plan is complex. First, 4 rockets are to be launched, then the crew must change position, and afterward fire the remaining 8. All targets cannot be hit in a single salvo. They're spread out across an area within an 80-mile or 130-kilometer radius, the maximum range of the Vila M. That's why 4 rockets are aimed in one direction and 8 in another. The targets were programmed in advance. Hangars filled with artillery shells, a site with Grad multiple rocket launchers, and a railway junction. The Vila M is a Ukrainian modernization of the Soviet-era Smerch multiple launch rocket system. The Ukrainians equipped it with rockets that have GPS guidance combined with inertial navigation. Unlike its predecessor, which fired over an area and wiped out everything in its path, the Vila M strikes with precision. Its circular error probable is between 30 and 90 feet, about 10 to 30 meters. That's why in Russia it was called Smerch, meaning tornado, while in Ukraine it's called Vilka, meaning alder tree. In Ukrainian culture, the alder is associated with water, cleansing, and renewal. It grows quickly, can take root even in swamps, and survives where others die. In the commander's headset came the dry voice of radio reconnaissance. ZU-1M is active in the sector, be ready. The ZU-1M is a counter-battery radar. That means after a launch, you have maybe 2 minutes at best to leave the firing point, retract the outriggers, the hydraulic supports that stabilize the vehicle during firing, start the engine, and get out of there at maximum speed. If you fail, you're a dead man. The ZU-1M will track the rockets, its computer will calculate your coordinates in a matter of milliseconds, transmit them to Russian artillery, and soon enough, heavy 152mm shells or multiple launch rockets will be on their way to kill you. In war, it's always the same. Either you take them out or they take you. 10:30 p.m. The command, fire. The roar of the first rocket's engine shattered the night silence. It shot into the black sky, leaving behind a blinding trail of flame. Beautiful, impressive. But the automation has no sense of romance, and thank God for that. One after another, with 20-second intervals, the rockets leapt into the night sky. The second, the third, the fourth. The countdown had begun. Now time was worth more than gold. More than that, because your own life is worth far more than all the gold in Fort Knox that Trump once threatened to count. The massive engine of the vehicle roared to life. 10:31 p.m., 4 Ukrainian rockets carved through the sky, faster and faster, half the speed of sound. Then 0.7, then 0.9. They'd gone supersonic. Their solid fuel engines kept spewing fire, accelerating them up to Mach 3.5. On the ground, the hydraulics pulled the outrigger rods back in, 50 centimeters, 30, 20, 10, locked into travel position. And in that same moment, strong soldiers' hands swung the brackets into place. The mechanical latches clicked shut. On the other side of the front line, intense work was underway. Russian air defense systems were locking on one after another. The Tor M2 batteries were the first to acquire the target. This was the forward echelon of protection designed to shoot down exactly these kinds of threats, rockets and precision munitions. The radar locked on dispassionately. Target speed, Mach 3.5. Altitude, 5 miles, about 8 kilometers. Distance, 9 miles, about 15 kilometers. A green light lit up. The target was in the kill zone. Instantly, the system launched. 2 interceptor missiles ripped into the black sky, accelerating rapidly to Mach 3. Russian and Ukrainian rockets raced toward each other with lightning speed. It seemed the fatal collision was inevitable, but the Vila M was programmed to make small, unpredictable course corrections. To the human eye, these maneuvers were almost invisible. To an air defense computer, they were a nightmare. The calculated interception point collapsed. The interceptors detonated in the air far from the Ukrainian rocket. Meanwhile, just a few miles from the Tor M2, Russian artillery crews were feverishly adjusting their howitzers to the coordinates passed by the Zu-1M. Their long barrels tilted skyward like hunting dogs sniffing for prey. Finally, they locked into the required angle. Breeches slammed shut, sealing in 100-pound shells. 10:32 p.m. The Ukrainian rockets, having deceived their would-be killers, raced toward their targets. Their engines had already burned out, and now they flew on inertia, waiting for the guidance system to command the aerodynamic fins into action for the final maneuvers that would bring them precisely onto the target. More than 60 miles away, the 40-ton Vila M was tearing across the earth, all 12 wheels clawing furiously at the ground, leaving behind a thick trail of exhaust. The Russian Pantsir S-1 switched on to intercept the Ukrainian rockets. Its antenna rotated, its missiles lifted into launch position. But the targets were moving too fast and had a very low radar signature, and it was not just one target anymore. Following the first Vila came a second, then a third. Launch! The first pair of Pantsir missiles streaked into the sky but missed. The second pair followed, but the Ukrainian rockets slipped through them as well. 10:33 p.m. The Vila M, its 500 horsepower engine straining with a deafening roar, raced away from the firing square. The Russians fought to the last. Just 2 miles from the target, 2 seconds of flight, the Shoka anti-aircraft system erupted. 4 23mm automatic cannons spewed tracers, filling the sky with a wall of lead. But against a rocket traveling 6 times faster than a bullet, that wall was nearly useless. A few miles away, the firing pins of Russian howitzers struck the primers of their shells, and within an instant, the projectiles spun out of their barrels toward the grid square. 10:34 p.m. The Ukrainian rockets already had their target horizon in sight. The guidance system adjusted the aerodynamic fins, forcing these massive steel cylinders, hundreds of kilograms each, to behave like obedient children led by the hand. This was not the blind flight of the old Smerch, but the controlled leap of a predator that knows exactly where to sink its teeth. The first Ukrainian rocket homed in on the eastern hangar. Inside were stacks of 152mm shells, thousands, tens of thousands of gleaming cylinders, each weighing 100 pounds, about 45 kilograms. Weeks of artillery fire were hidden there. The Vila M had already pulled half a mile away from its launch point when a series of deafening explosions erupted there. Russian shells plowed into the grid square where the Ukrainian launcher had stood just a minute earlier. 10:34:30 p.m. 380 pounds of explosives slammed into the warehouse roof like a sledgehammer into brittle glass. The blast wave tore away the overhead structures, crumbling concrete like dry bread and bending steel like foil. But the true destruction came a fraction of a second later. Inside the cramped stacks, the air temperature shot up 3,000 degrees. Propellants and explosives, designed to last for years in storage, could not withstand such hell. In an instant, the warehouse became a gigantic furnace. 10:35 p.m., the second Vilka smashed into the northern storage site. Inside were grads, hundreds of 122mm rockets, each packed with nearly 50 pounds, about 20 kilograms of explosives. The detonation ripped off the 15-ton hangar roof and tossed it skyward like the lid of a kettle. Rockets detonated in clusters, 6, 10, 20 at once. They were no longer munitions, but improvised bombs. Flames burst outward, lighting up the night. 10:35:30 p.m. The third Vilka slammed into the western hangar. There lay the cluster munitions, a deadly stockpile of submunitions. The rocket pierced the roof, and a moment later, 1,000 miniature demons exploded inside. The submunitions detonated right in their casings. The blast wave brought down the supporting beams, and the hangar collapsed like a house of cards. Burning fuel spread across the yard, turning the depot into a torch, visible for dozens of miles. 10:36 p.m. The fourth rocket struck into the already burning ruins. There was no warehouse left, only fire and chaos. Yet even here, its blast intensified the catastrophe, adding injury to the inferno, pushing the flames forward, finishing off whatever had not yet detonated. 10:38 p.m. Inside the depots, the most dangerous stock ignited, S-300 surface-to-air missiles and heavy Smerch rockets. Each of these was not just a steel tube, but a monster carrying 550 pounds, about 250 kilograms of explosives, plus hundreds of kilograms of solid fuel. When one of these giants detonates, the shock wave tears through the air for miles. In Karlivka, 3 kilometers away, windows blew out as if they were cardboard. People grabbed their phones, recording the sky where an orange-red mushroom cloud was rising. 10:45 p.m. The underground bunker holding Smerch rockets gave way. The explosion carved a crater as deep as a 4-story building and 130 feet across, about 40 meters. From it rose a cloud that looked like a nuclear blast. On social media, the first witness videos began to spread. 11 p.m. The inferno did not stop. Though warehouses no longer existed as structures, what remained were volcanic craters. Explosion after explosion, blast after blast, ammunition designed to last for years in storage went up in minutes. Rocket motors flew across the perimeter, some ignited and launched like insane fireworks, soaring hundreds of feet before detonating in the air or slamming into fences, nearby hangars, and vehicles. Flames rolled across the grounds, fanned by the wind. Metal melted, roofs caved inward, and the soil itself turned into burning stone. 11:10 p.m. Over Karlivka, the night turned red. 4 massive fires raged where the depots once stood. Smoke stretched for miles and was visible even from Donetsk. Social media filled with shaky videos of giant tongues of flame and thunderous booms that drowned out voices. Conservative estimates put the losses at no less than 3,000 tons of ammunition destroyed. On the front line, that equaled 3 weeks of artillery work, 3 weeks that could have meant hundreds of shelled positions, thousands of rounds fired at towns. All of it vanished in a single evening. 11:20 p.m. The fire still raged. Fire brigades stood miles away from the epicenter. Getting closer was impossible. The temperature exceeded 1,800 degrees, and shells kept detonating. 11:40 p.m. While a miniature apocalypse raged over Karlivka, the Vila M crew had already moved to a new position. The vehicle had traveled several kilometers along dirt roads and halted when the navigator confirmed they were in the designated square. 8 rockets remained at their disposal. These targets were different, not ammunition depots, but supply and command facilities, a fuel storage site, a rail line bringing in ammunition trains, and a field command post in one of the villages south of the front. The crews set to work quickly. The outrigger locks clanked open, hydraulics hummed as the supports pressed into the soil, electronics ran system checks in preparation for launch. 11:45 p.m. The command fired. One after another at 20-second intervals, the rockets leapt into the night. 2 minutes later, the first salvo struck the fuel tanks. Massive steel reservoirs burst like ripe melons, and burning fuel flooded the ground, turning everything around into a lake of fire. The next 2 rockets hit the railway line. At that moment, a train loaded with ammunition crates was pulling into the unloading station. The blast destroyed part of the platforms, knocked cars on their sides, and twisted the remaining track so badly that traffic was paralyzed for a long time. The final 2 rockets struck the command post. The hit was precise. The building collapsed into ruins in seconds, and communications across the sector went silent. Thus ended one of those operations that reveal the true nature of this war. Yes, drones have become its symbol, but strikes like these remind us there is no such thing as an absolute weapon, no miracle solution. Victory goes to those who know how to combine reconnaissance, electronic warfare, artillery, and precision missiles. In this story, death truly chased the Ukrainians every step of the way, but they were quicker, they survived, and with them survived dozens, even hundreds of others, those who would no longer be targeted by the thousands of shells from the destroyed depot. Thank you for watching. We'll be glad for your like, comment, and subscription to our channel. See you soon in our next videos.